Okay. So welcome again to our resident panel discussion here at the Gardens at Town Square. My name is Joan Retnan, Area Community Relations Director for Area Living. And I recognize from working in my role as a guide to help you and your families make this very important decision that it's certainly not an easy one, and that there are a lot of questions that need to be asked. And sometimes it's hard to even really know what questions to ask, especially if you are new to exploring your options. So we are here today to learn from the best possible resources, our residents here at the Gardens at Town Square. So who better to share insight and offer advice than others who have once been in your shoes? So our hope today is that you'll not only learn new information about the Gardens at Town Square, but that you'll also gain tips from our 4 resident panelists to help you decide for yourself if the Gardens at Town Square or maybe another option might be the right fit for you. So let's go ahead and meet our residents really quickly, and then we'll get started with some questions. So let's go ahead and start with May, if you just want to raise your hand and wave. May. So May and her husband, Shig, have lived here at the Gardens for about 6 years. And then we have Diane. Diane has also been here for about 6 years. And then Bob and Carol, who are some of our newer residents who've been here for about 2 months or so. So welcome everybody, and thank you in advance to our resident panelists for being here to answer questions for everybody today. So I thought a good question to start things off would be a question that we get all the time, which is for our residents, why did you decide to look at retirement communities in the first place? And how did you know that you were ready? We hear all the time, I'm not ready to make the move. So how did you know it was the right time for you? So I'm going to go ahead and give everybody an opportunity to answer this question. Let's maybe start with Diane. Diane, would you like to go first? Oh, and Diane, you're currently on mute, if you don't mind.
Yes,
Thank you.
I put
Okay.
myself on mute. Yes, we made the decision to move here when we realized that we would probably need help in the future. My eyes were failing, and I knew I had to give up driving, and so I needed a place. And then my husband has showing signs of memory loss, and so we thought it's just beginning, but we need to be prepared while we're in charge, so we could make the decisions and not have our sons have to make the decisions for us. So we began the search then. We knew where we needed to go on this side of the lake. We had made our life in Seattle previously, but our sons were on this side of the lake, so that's why we moved here.
That's perfect, thank you. And we do hear that really commonly too. A lot of the decision-making process is related to location, and oftentimes that is dependent upon where family lives too. So that makes sense. Okay, May, how about you? You and Fig.
Well, we decided that, we were in our mid-80s. We're 90 now. And so we decided that we didn't decide. Our 4 siblings decided that Mom and Dad, you need to be where we are, either in California or up in Washington. We lived in Portland, Oregon. And so listening to what they were saying, and we no longer had any siblings in Portland, Oregon, we decided now's the best time to move. We're still able to move around, and we can be where our kids are, and they're worried about us. So that is the reason we moved.
Okay, perfect. And so in your case, it was maybe being a little bit proactive too, and moving before there was really a health need for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay. And then Bob and Carol, how about for you? What made you decide to look at retirement communities, and how did you know that you were ready?
Well, we had a hard time making up our mind that we were ready, but we knew it was in our future. So we got started like in March of last year, and we were reluctant to move. However, living where we were, meals were becoming a difficulty or a chore, and but because of COVID, we were very hesitant. But can you fill in?
Oh, I just think we find we weren't eating well. We found that a lot of our friends like us didn't travel so far anymore to see each other. And so life gets a little, zeroed in, and we wanted a place where we'd be around people. Our children do not live around here. At least we have a couple that live here part-time, but I think just to be in control of our own lives, being it us that make this decision, not them. Because we're bossy and we want to make it. And we just think that that's best. And our children agreed, and they're very happy with our decision. And so it's worked out great. We're very happy here having made it.
And we want it to be where there were options that we could take care of in care. And we would not have that where we're living in a condominium. Although we don't need those options right now, the comfort of having them available was one of the draws.
That's great. I'll maybe piggyback with a couple more comments on that. For those of you who maybe aren't quite as familiar with the types of care services that are offered here, for many people, they move in, as all of them have described, as living independently, where you're not needing any type of care services initially. But if you do start to need things like help with medication management, help with showering, dressing, those are things that are often added on down the road. But we also have a special part of our community that's called the Terrace, and that's designed to serve those who are more progressed, usually as related to memory loss. So Alzheimer's can cause that, and many other things can cause symptoms that are related to dementia, where a more supportive and more highly supervised setting is needed. And actually, to elaborate on that a little bit, I wanted to jump over to Diane, who has had some personal experience with the Terrace with her husband. Diane, would you like to elaborate a little bit more about what the Terrace is all about?
Yes, I am just so pleased with what our experience has been. Jack had a stroke, and then, of course, which made his memory loss so much more. He moved into the Terrace, had been there 2.5 years. And the lovely part of having it part of this building is that the spouses could go in and be part of it. COVID interrupted that, but now lately they've opened it again. So I'm just so impressed by the caregivers and by the activities, the spontaneity, that they have something going. If nothing else, they have music going all the time, which is very encouraging to them, and they have wonderful activities. So it was such a good experience in that it had to happen, but I could be part of it.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you. Now, for many people that come and see us, it's rare that when touring communities that sometimes we're the only community that people tour. Sometimes that is the case, but I'm curious, maybe just with a quick show of hands from our panelists, how many places you might have toured. So with a quick show of hands, how many of you toured maybe 2 or more places before making a decision? So May did, and okay, and Diane did as well. Did you tour 3 or more places? Yes, was it over 5? Either of you tour over 5? Oh, Diane, I think we lost your video.
Yes,
we'll let you jump back
I'll
in.
I'll be right back.
You'll be right back. Okay. Okay. Maybe we'll just call on you for this one until Diane's video is back. How many places did you tour before making a decision?
Probably around 4, and it's been quite a while, so I can't tell you exactly which ones, but I was so impressed with the friendliness of the staff here at the gardens, and how bright and friendly the environment is. And then we met so many of the members, and by the end of the day, we had gone to every activity that was listed. And at the end of the day, they say, "Hey, Okas, when are you moving in?" We could hardly believe it. So the people are so friendly. We've never met anyone we didn't dearly love, and we've been here for so many years.
Thank you, May. Well, this might be a good opportunity to segue into talking a little bit more specifically about what the Gardens is about, maybe what makes it special in your eyes. So maybe we'll move over to, we'll start with Diane on this one, and maybe you can talk a little bit about what your favorite parts of living in the Gardens might be, whether it's activities or services or whatever you feel like sharing about what makes you feel the Gardens is special.
Well, I think the very first thing, the first impression we had was the friendliness of the receptionists, the friendliness of those guiding us through the building, those everywhere we met people, they were just so welcoming and saying, glad to be introduced. And then it followed up as when we did move in, that we were invited to join someone for dinner or for lunch. And that we didn't ever pass someone but what it was, a friendly hello, good morning, etc. And so that was our continuing impression, and it is again today. And we just really appreciate the friendliness of everything. Of course, the dining room, but not just in the dining room, but the Living Enrichment arranges socials for us all, to concerts or all kinds of activities where there's interaction between the people staying here. And so there's always something to do. Or if you prefer, you may have things that you need to be alone to do with. So you're free to choose, and you have a lot of activities to choose from.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, good. Bob and Carol, and you've only been here for a couple of months, so
Yes.
you maybe haven't had years of experience to speak to, but is there anything that you would want to address related to what you enjoy about it or activities? Or let's start with that, and then I might have one other follow-up question for you, but let's go ahead and start there.
Well, I think the friendliness, particularly May, was one of the first people we met here, and she's kind of the ambassador. I think she really goes out of her way to meet new people, which is wonderful, and it makes you feel like I have a friend here, even though I don't know. And then we ran into a couple of people we knew after we moved here that we didn't know had already lived here, so that was nice. And it's just, we get up in the morning, well, what should we do today? And we pick, what we want to do. And if we just feel like doing nothing, that's fine too. But it's that sense, I think it's the sense of community and the sense of safety. I think, when you live in your house, you wonder, what if I fell? What if I think there just seems to be people who care, they care about you. And when you have a question or a problem, it's easy to get answers.
Yeah. And the universal friendliness of the entire staff is really very nice feature. And also a very good surprise was how delicious the food is. It's really outstanding.
Important to all of us.
It is.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the most common questions I know as a guide when I do tours is, what is the food like here? And so we come up with different ways to be able to give an opportunity to try the food. And by the way, even with current restrictions, so for those of you who've maybe toured communities lately, you might have found that there's still restrictions out there that limit guests to having meals in the dining room or limit guests to come in and participate in activity, but there's still a variety of ways to get those experiences. We just modify it in a way that is safe. So if you're curious about any of those types of things, we can talk one-on-one about that, but I just wanted to make that point. But thanks for addressing the food. May, I'm going to come to you. I have one other follow-up question really quickly for Carol and Bob, related to something you mentioned at the very beginning, where you talked a little bit about having some hesitancy, perhaps due to the timing because of COVID, which, as you're probably going to guess, that questions come up with a lot of people from time to time. Is this the right time for me to move? Yeah, I'm kind of curious if you might be able to offer a little bit about how you made the decision to move while there are restrictions in place, where your comfort level came from for
Well-
that. Could you speak to that, please?
Yeah, I think that those restrictions are on the outside too. And when you're living by yourself and you don't feel comfortable going to the grocery store or
Mhm.
having friends over or all the things that, you know, when we moved in here, we may not sat down for dinner with someone, but we saw them in the halls, or we saw, you know, or we were in a community that was all in the same place. We all were struggling with it in the same way. So it was nice to have the friendly people and have so many activities that we could either do on our own or with other people in a safe environment. Because if you're living on your own and you have to go to the grocery store and, you know, there's things that you have to do that here we don't have to do.
Yeah, I like the fact that we were in a safe haven, so to speak, from the COVID
That's it.
when we got here. Yes.
Mhm.
Thank you. That's great. And there might be some follow-up questions from the group too, but we'll go through just a couple more questions and then we're going to open it up in just a second to give everyone a chance to ask their own. So May, I want to come back to you to allow for you to share your feedback too about maybe what you enjoy about living at the gardens. Maybe describe some activities if you would, please.
Oh, sure. I'd love to fill in on that. I wanted to pick up something on what Julie was saying about food. We have a nutritionist. You know, we have marvelous seminars. One of them is on nutrition, and the nutritionist advises our chef so that there are many people with inflammation problems, diabetes, high blood pressure, all these kinds of things. And I think the food committee and the chef, they're so open to ideas. What can we use instead of sodium? And she'll even there's usually one seminar a month given by the top chef. And also the nutritionist is here once a month, and they will accept any questions. They're such great listeners. And one person said to me, I'm on the food committee. So one person said, May, we never get carrot sticks and celery sticks. And I mentioned at one of our meetings, hey, we get celery and carrot sticks as an option all the time, and sometimes it's part of our salad. So they're great listeners, and there's food for people who are gluten-free and people who need to watch their intake for cholesterol, for people with diabetes, low desserts, low sugar. So that is all taken into consideration. But some of the highlights, I'm just going to touch base on them. And first of all, you know, you're probably still driving, but there's going to be a day where you're going to have to give up your driving. We're still driving, but still, there's free transportation here. Whether you need to go to church, go to an appointment, I mean, it's just marvelous just to have that. Did you know there's a hair salon available right here? There's an exercise equipment room, a pool table. There's all kinds of seminars that are given, not only on nutrition and different foods, but on current events, on history, on music, on art. You know, we're never too old to learn. And I think as we grow older, see, how would I say that? Your memory fades a little bit. And so
Yes.
you need activities that are going to stir that brain and get it going. One of them is exercise, but the other thing is there's fun seminars, how to enhance your brain power. And it's so much fun. There's all kinds of games. You know, do you play bridge or spades or bingo, box games? All kinds of games that you can indulge in. You can do all of them or ignore all of them. It's up to you. There's choices, and they're wonderful choices. And one of the probably the best thing about all of these activities is you get to socialize. Socialization is so important for our brain. And you're going to find that you're never too old to learn. Every time I meet someone different, you know, who's new, I find out about their ethnicity, their history, their culture. Oh, it's marvelous. And so, you know, at our age, your children, your grandchildren, even your great grandchildren are growing, and they're grown. And so your mission now is to pass that love, the love that you've inherited, and now you're able to do it for others through service, through helping, whatever is needed, be there.
Thank you, May. You touched on a lot of great points there, and I think one of the important points that you made too is that your preferences for how private you might be or social might be, how social you might be, are all honored here. You all have a choice into what degree you want to participate. So if you want to be busy throughout the day, every day, 7 days a week, there's a possibility for it. Or if you want to do something once a week, that's up to you too. So I appreciate that you making that point. And I have one other question that I want to ask each of you actually, and then we'll go ahead and open it up to questions after that. And this is a question about the move process. And normally when I ask folks, what do you think the hardest part about making the decision was, oftentimes it's moving and dealing with my stuff and all of that. So I would guess that everybody who's attending here is probably thinking the same thing. I don't want to deal with my stuff and moving and the logistics and all of that. So I'm going to ask if you have advice around that, or maybe to speak to areas that were hard for you in that area and how you resolved it or what you did to make the move happen. So let's see, Diane, would you like to go first?
Right. I think there were several things that we had to consider when we had a basement full of our hobbies. My husband was a fixer-upper, so he had all his tools and just a storage just jammed full of things. And I had my hobby of quilting, and so that was all spread around. Especially we moved into the bedrooms that our sons had vacated. So it was a challenge, but it was really, we enjoyed having a layout of our apartment. We knew it was going to be a time to eliminate a lot of things. And yet we had so many memories from living in one place for 50 years. So it was, we were able to look at the floor plans, go through our rooms and decide what we could and could not use. And then we set aside the things that were important to us that would come with us. And then we just turned our grandchildren loose. We let them come in and take all the things that were not designated for us, that they could have a grand garage sale. And then they could even keep the all that came in through that. So that was fun. We were here sometimes and not sometimes with them, but that helped a very great deal. Then of course, we gave a lot of, sometimes it was very hard to throw away the things that we had participated in, but I realized I can't take that with me. I can remember what's important and the rest is not that much. So it was a challenging time, but now you begin to feel free that you don't have all this clinging to you. You can let go of it.
Thank you. That's great advice. May, let's go with you next for you and Shig.
Well, you know, when we decided to move, we looked at all the stuff, and then our final decision was, what's more important, your memories or material things? And I think that was the governing thing. And after the siblings had taken whatever they needed, we donated a lot of our stuff. And it was good because our memories kept you going, and you really don't need so many of the material things. So
Well,
it's a decision. Yeah, it's a big decision what to keep and what to throw away. And of course, probably the thing that was the hardest was our friends. You know, we had lived in Portland for 85 years, and it was really hard to leave them. And so, but if, you know, material things, you can't take it with you. So the memories, your children, you know, all of those are much more important.
Mhm.
Great. Thank you, May. And then, of course, Bob and Carol, you've been through this process much more recently. So this is probably really fresh in your mind, the emotions, the experiences. What advice would you have?
Yeah, we had to go through this about 5 years ago. We moved out of our home of 43 years. We were empty nesters. And we moved to a condo that was less than half the size of that house. And we were able to, with the help of our 3 children and 6 grandchildren, offload a lot of stuff. But a lot had to,
Be generous.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It was hard to get rid of stuff. A lot had to go to Goodwill.
Mhm.
But the main thing is you shouldn't get emotionally attached to things. You should
Yeah.
be able to turn loose. And then we had to go through the same thing here in October. And again, our children and grandchildren stepped in, were able to take some things, but again, we had to end up giving stuff to Goodwill or other charities. But
I'll just add something to that, is that we were able to give our kids things that we knew they had always loved. And we loved them, so we'd always kept them. But now that we had to downsize, we got to give it to them and know how much, because we already knew how much they wanted them. And the things that they didn't care about, we probably didn't care about either. So those were easy to give away.
Yeah.
yeah, we still ended up with a little excess here in the facility now. So we're going to do a little weeding out sometime in the future.
Good, thank you. All very helpful feedback and advice, so thank you. Well, this would be probably a good point for us to maybe pause on the questions that I'm asking and see if there are some questions from the group. So if you are comfortable, you're welcome to take your microphones off of mute at this time. You can ask a question via chat too, so I'll try to keep an eye on that. But does anybody have a question? If you do, could you raise your hand? Kay, okay. So we're going to start with Kay, and then just keep the hands popping up, and I'll just go around and call on you. I will say, if you do not have the ability to put your video on so I can see you, just go ahead and speak up, and we'll figure it out. I'll make sure that you get called on, but we'll go ahead and start with Kay first. Hi, Kay.
I want to know about current COVID restrictions. I mean, do you mask when you're in the social areas? What about visitors?
Great question. Yes.
Yes.
Would any of our residents like to speak to that one? May? And okay, we'll start with May.
Your family is welcome into your room, into your apartment, but not friends. And we wear our mask all the time, whether we walk the halls, go down for dinner, play any kind of games, we have our mask on. Even when we exercise, our exercise class, we wear our mask. So we keep our distance.
And that was my other question about exercise classes.
Oh, you'll love them. Okay, we not only have exercise classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:30, and it's called Flex and Stretch. So it uses every part of your muscles, and you can do it whether you are able to stand, or you can do it in a chair. So it's very flexible. And also we have a private stations for, we are part of ERA. Jonah could probably go into that for you, but it's called, it's station 370, and you should see it. There's exercise classes, 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock. There's even one for balance in the afternoon. There's meditation. Exercise is enormous. That's one of the best things for your body, your brain. You've got to exercise. You got to move around. We walk the halls when it's too cold outside, and each hall, wherever you start, like in our case, it would be from the elevator. We start and we go into all the halls on that particular floor, and come back to the elevator, and they're all 1/3 mile. So third
Ah.
floor is 1/3 mile, fourth floor, fifth floor, each one is a 1/3 mile. Second floor has a terrace, and so it's a little bit shorter. So there's no excuse for not doing exercise. Of course, there's the equipment room too, with different kinds of exercisers.
Okay, I'm going to go to Diane, and then Bob, I'm going to come back to you in case there was something else you wanted to add to, I think, related to COVID restrictions. So Diane?
Well, I think that we, as the part of the Era Living, follow the same requirements of the health departments. So we are required to wear masks when we're out of our room, and of course we take them off when we eat. But then that's a big thing that we're working on is safety and health. So we remain healthy. We have really done so well here because we have followed those restrictions.
Thanks, Diane. And I might be stating the obvious. I didn't clarify this at the beginning, but all of our residents are inside their own apartments today. And we did that because, of course, if you're in your own apartment, you do not need to wear a mask. And this way, we can all see each other's faces too, rather than being in one spot. So thank you. Okay, Bob, was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, well, as May mentioned, masks are required anywhere in the building you're outside of your unit. And because we had, I think it was a member of the staff that tested positive for COVID over the Christmas, New Year's period, we recently went through, I think it was 2 weeks lockdown where all meals were taken in our room. We could order from the dining room to have meals sent in. But as of last Friday, that ended. So we're back to dining in the dining room. And anyway, that worked out well with ordering meals and having them delivered.
Yeah, thank you. So essentially the restrictions are that visitors are certainly welcome at this time, but just not able to join with our residents inside common areas. So our residents right now are doing group activities, again, having meals together, but wearing masks to get from point A to point B. Of course, you lower your masks when you're having meals, but visitors are allowed inside the apartments, can come and go from there. And all of our residents are vaccinated. So sometimes there might be differences between retirement communities depending on the vaccination status too, but we're fully vaccinated here, so that's helpful for us. Elaine, I think you had your hand up here and there a little bit. Do you still have a question that you'd like to ask?
I understand that there's only one meal a day provided. And how does that work? Do you have to sign up for certain times for meals ahead of time? And if your plans change and you want to have lunch instead of dinner, how often can you change that, or when can you change that?
Really great question. Who would like to answer that question of our residents?
Well, I just said that today, knowing that we would be too busy with this seminar, and I have a hair appointment at 3:45. I decided we won't be here for dinner. So we ordered our lunch already, and that's going to be our dinner. So it's very easy to do. Yeah, you just call downstairs and say, what's your daily lunch? And then aside, they usually have a menu of what's normal, what they will be serving, and they will provide it. You just order your meal, and you can either pick it up or have them bring it up.
And if you change your mind and what if you want lunch and dinner on the same day? Can you just pay for the extra meal?
Oh yeah, you'll pay for the extra meal in your month, your bill.
Are there different meal plans? Or is it always just everybody gets one meal a day? And does that, and there's no breakfast?
Yeah, there's just one meal a day. Could be any meal.
That's
Could
for
be
independent
breakfast.
living.
That's what one meal a day. And so if you miss a meal, then I take very copious notes. I'll put one dinner. And then if I miss a second dinner, I'll put second dinner because we've gone out or maybe we've been out of town. And so when I come back, then the first thing I do is I'll do an extra lunch. So I'll do one lunch and I'm cross out my one dinner. Excuse me. So you
I'll
have
maybe
to
jump
be.
in just,
Mhm.
thank you. I'll maybe jump in just for a quick point of clarification that yes, as independent residents, you have one meal per day, very flexible. Think of it as if you have 30 days in a month, you have 30 meals and you use them up however you want. You could have 3 meals one day, 0 the next, 2 another. It's however you want to do it, mix and match. No reservations needed. You just show up for the meal. Or as May described, you can do takeout. There's no additional charge. So if you don't want to have a meal inside the dining room for whatever reason, you can call ahead, place your order. They package it up in a little to-go container, in a little bag. You can just grab it and go up to your apartment too. I'm sure probably all of you have used takeout at some point, I'm guessing. Diane, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, you answered that. Mhm.
Okay, Bob?
Yeah, I'd like to point out that I think if you decide you're going to go to breakfast in addition to having all your dinners, I think there's a like $7 fee that's tacked onto your monthly bill. And I think it's a little more for lunch. I'm not sure what the figure is. Joan might
Yeah, I
know.
can talk. Yes, that's a really good point. So let's say as you're living here independently, you know, for sure I want 2 meals a day, actually. I want more than just the 1 meal per day. I know I'm going to want lunch and dinner every day. Let's just pretend that might be the case. You can either do it a la carte, kind of like what Bob was describing, where for your extra meals, you can just pay as you go. Or there's a more budget-friendly way to do that, where you can pay an additional $200 per month, and then you get another 30 meals for $200 in addition to the one that's already included. You can add on a 3rd meal per day too. The other option for meals, as I would describe it, is if at some point in the future you do need assisted living types of services, like help with dressing, bathing, those kinds of things that we were talking about earlier, you do pay extra a la carte, kind of mix and match for the services that you need, depending on frequency for that need and such. But at that point in time, all 3 meals are automatically wrapped into those extra costs too. So that's important to know the difference between the assisted living program and the independent living program. That's a good question, Kay. I'm glad you asked about that.
We still have cookies in
Or
the coffee room.
Elaine.
Yeah.
Cookies?
What's that, Kay?
Cookies in the coffee room?
Oh,
Yes,
that's
it is.
available in
Yeah.
the beach house.
Yes,
Yeah.
And for breakfast in the morning, so often there's fruit there, and then maybe banana bread or scones or things like that. That many people, that's a social time for them. They come down. The newspaper is provided with the New York Times and the Washington Street, the Journal, and Seattle Times. I think there's another one also. And then there's also socialization as you're having your breakfast at your little table. You're also able to chat back and forth as you read and enjoy a minimum breakfast.
Yeah.
Coffee is very good.
Okay. I'm going to go to Bob first and then over to May second. Bob?
Yeah. I'd like to point out that I was sitting next to a lady at dinner, and I asked her, "What is that you're having for dinner?" Because I didn't recognize it. And she said it's vegetarian meatloaf. And I'd never heard of, but apparently she is a vegetarian and can I guess vegetarians can make special requests and get their dietary needs.
Yes, there are
Absolutely.
vegetarian meals.
Absolutely. That's one of the highlights, I think, of our kitchen and here at the gardens. I was trying to think what I was going to say. Well, whatever problems you might be having personally, you let the chef know. and she will make allowances, whether it's gluten, vegetarian. There's usually a vegetarian meal every night at dinner time. And so you love it. The food here is just outstanding.
Yes.
That's a good point, May. I think something that that you learn shortly after you move in and you have a chance to spend time with Kentra, who is our chef, is that she describes the menus as what you see. So she'll describe, kind of walk you through how they work and how they're created, but then she'll teach you about, as she describes it, a hidden menu, which is a way to look at options that maybe aren't in writing for you. So she talks a little bit about the flexibility and the creativity of the team, which I think that's in place here in part because of the longevity of the team. So another common question we get are about the staff and how long they've worked there. And I think in the dining area, sometimes that's where you see higher turnover. And so one of the things that I personally feel very proud about with the Gardens at Town Square is that our chef herself has been here for 15 years, and she has 3 other cooks in the kitchen that have worked with her. And they've been here even longer. 3 of them have worked here between 16 and 20 years. And that can make a difference in terms of how flexible and how accommodating the team members can be. Elaine, I saw your hand go up. Did you have another question? I love your questions. Let's keep going with your questions.
Not about food. One of the questions I had is, can you get your own private Wi-Fi in your apartment? Not a public Wi-Fi.
Oh, good question. Yes, I can answer that unless one of our residents wants to speak to that at all. Okay, I'll answer that one really quickly. That's actually what we recommend. We do have Wi-Fi in the common areas down here, but we always recommend, in part because of connectivity and such, to go ahead and get your own internet and your own Wi-Fi in your apartment. Yeah. Kelly, are there other folks that would like to ask a question that we haven't had a chance to call on yet? I know there are some people, again, not on video, but I'm going to pause for just a second to maybe allow for anyone to unmute their mic and speak up if you would like. Anyone out there? Okay. Let's see. So for those who are on video, Kay or Elaine, or I see Mary, do any of you have more questions you'd like to ask?
Yes.
Elaine,
I'm sorry.
okay.
I'm sorry to be asking so many questions, but
Oh, you're good question.
are the apartments air conditioned?
Oh, good question. Anyone like to talk about that? Okay. Or maybe actually Bob and Carol probably wouldn't have had experience with that because they moved in during cooler months. May, have you and Sheg ever used the air conditioning options that we have here?
No, we've never used it. Yeah, it's always been so comfortable. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So I'll maybe talk a little bit about that then. I've worked with a lot of people who've used air conditioning here. So some people use it, some people don't. There's not central air that's included in most of the apartments here, with just a few exceptions. So some of our penthouse apartments do have central air, but the majority of the other apartments don't have central air that's part of it. So we do have portable air conditioning units that we can bring inside the apartment and install. Very simple. There's just a little insert that goes into the window to allow for ventilation, and that works well. Some people use them, some people don't. It does depend on the exposure of your apartment, how much trees or direct light are allowing for heat to come in. I think whether folks use it or not. So, good question.
Okay. What about the housekeeping? Do they clean the apartments?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
They are
Bob and
fast.
Carol, do you want to start?
Yeah, that's one of the nicest things. They come and we have chosen to use our own sheets and towels, but if you want to use theirs, they bring the sheets and towels, they change your beds, they take the dirty ones away, and the next week they do it again. In our case, we wanted to keep our own, so I just we have a washer and dryer, so I just wash the sheets and make sure there's this new set for them to put on the bed, and they put the others in my washer for next time, and it's very fast, and yeah, they're very good.
Mhm.
Good. Okay, Diane?
Well, that's one of my very favorite things, is that has never been a wonderful thing for me to do, is to keep house. So I just appreciate it very, very much. And they're here very promptly with, I do use their sheets and towels, find them really wonderful. And so I appreciate very much that I know when they're coming. There's a specific time that we're given, a day a week, and however long it takes to clean the apartment, depending on its size. And they are very efficient. And it's just wonderful to have your bathroom and kitchen thoroughly cleaned, and the floors. And so I have no vacuum cleaner. And I have no plunger. I just enjoy being taken care of.
You can leave your plunger at home, one less thing to pack. Okay, let's see. I see a question from Mary. You're still on mute, Mary, if you don't mind hitting the unmute button, and go ahead and ask away.
Okay, does every unit have its own washer and dryer?
Ooh, good question. The
Don't
answer
think
to
so.
that is no. Let's see, May, you might be able to address this a little bit, since you have an apartment style that does not have a washer and dryer. So how does that work for you and Shake?
No, we have one. We have a washer and dryer.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes, we have
Got
a
it.
washer
Okay.
and dryer. Yeah, and so we have, it's kind of called a regular room and a smaller room. And the smaller room, I have a sofa bed, and then it's my computer room. So I have all my computers and it's my work desk and everything. And so it's wonderful. Instead of having in my second room, having a shower, I have a washer and dryer. And that
Oh,
was
got it.
what we
Okay.
wanted. Yes, it's wonderful.
That's lovely. I
Mhm.
thought you maybe had a different floor plan, but there are some floor plans here that do have washers and dryers, and then there are a number of them that don't.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
depending on which one you choose, if you
Mhm.
have an
Mhm.
apartment that does not have a washer and dryer inside of it, there is a laundry room on every single floor that
Mhm.
is complimentary to use. So there's a couple of
Mhm.
couple of washers, couple of dryers in each one. There is a ironing board and an iron in there too, for those of us who still iron clothes. And you do not need to, I don't do that either. You do not need to save quarters for those. So the next question is, well, do I need to carry a bucket of quarters around? And no, you can forget about the quarters. They're complimentary to use. You don't need anything, just bring your soap to use those.
Mhm.
Thanks, Mary, for that
Thanks.
question.
Thank you.
Okay. We're getting pretty close to the end of time, but is there maybe one or two more questions out there that you'd like to ask? Elaine?
This may be a silly question, but it's been a bone of contention in the apartment we're living in now. What do they do when packages are delivered from outside? Like if when Amazon comes or FedEx or one of those?
Yeah. Diane, let's start with you.
Oh, that's such a good question. And I just delight in it, because it is a concern to have packages delivered, but everything is delivered to our reception desk. They are labeled, entered into a book, and then they call us and tell us that the package has arrived.
Mhm.
And if there's something too big to go into your mailbox, they'll also call you for that. So that I feel is such a safe feature for packages to be delivered. And in some cases, for instance, I send letters off to Africa. And so I am able to get that pricing, and they will stamp the envelopes for me. So, and then the postage goes on my bill at the end of the month. So that's another feature and you can buy 20 stamps at a time from the desk also. So that saves a trip to the post office.
May?
If you need something faxed, they will be happy to fax it free for you.
True.
And
Mhm.
it is just wonderful. And any kind of mail that comes, they usually have a little sign that says the mail has arrived. So you don't need to worry whether the mails come for the day. But like Diane says, it's so nice to have packages delivered to the reception desk. They do not miss calling you. They will call you and say, hey, we've got a package for you.
Mhm.
There's a couple pharmacies that will also deliver. The one that we use is Bartel. They deliver on Tuesdays. So if you have medication that you use, and they will automatically do whatever you want, but then they will deliver on Tuesday. So you just remember that. So if you need something refilled, be sure to call Thursday or Friday so it can be delivered. Fantastic.
You can imagine, especially in the past couple of years, the uptick in the number of packages that have been
Mhm.
delivered here. Most people have
Mhm.
explored that option regardless of where you live. So
Mhm.
we've
Mhm.
really become a well-oiled machine when it comes
Mhm.
to receiving packages or food deliveries or
What about
whatnot. It's very
shuttles?
standard practice here.
All goes through the
Shuttle.
roof. Mhm.
What about shuttle
I think we have an
to a
opportunity maybe
grocery
for one more
store or
question
train
Mentioned
before we
system?
wrap up.
transportation. Earlier,
Or
she said
Diane,
there was
you have another
transportation.
comment maybe?
Yes, I just heard another question being
Okay.
asked about trips to the grocery store. Yes, those people with cars can go at any time, but it's scheduled a bus that will hold 10 people at a time that will take us to a variety of grocery stores. QFC every week, sometimes Fred Meyer, other times Trader Joe's, which is very close. And so there's all opportunities, I think twice a week, that you can choose to sign up to ride the bus to get your groceries. They'll come back and get you also. They'll take you, give you time to shop, pick you up from the grocery store and bring you home.
Mhm.
That's what,
Thank you.
that's what
Those
I
are
was
good points
saying.
to add. Okay, great. Well, I think we're about at time now. So a special thank you to Carol and Bob and May and Diane for taking the time to really be mentors for the day and answer some questions. I hope everyone who attended today found it very helpful. There will be an opportunity for you to ask additional questions or to share your thoughts or feedback as we continue to develop new and different webinars down the road. So we'll send you an email following up shortly after this that allows for you to share that feedback with us. So thank you in advance for taking the time to answer a few questions there. So once again, I just want to thank everybody for attending. I appreciate your time today, and we'll keep in touch to keep those questions coming. So thanks so much again, and have a lovely day, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks
Have
for
a good
joining
day.
us.
Now,
Bye.
See you in the